Are people mad about something Asmongold said?
They deserve this game. They f***ing deserve this. People have been very unhappy about something that I said yesterday. Let me see if I can find it here. How to fix WoW according to Asmongold. So this is obviously a post that I made, and a lot of people were unhappy about this. There were a lot of WoW players that were mad. And I'd like to say that I'm totally right, and I think that time will prove me right. And that's about it. I think that's the reason why Season of Discovery is going so well. I think that's the reason why Classic WoW does so well.
Do you guys think add-ons is basically like cheating? No, yes. I definitely do in PvP. I looked at Trill's screen one day when he was PvPing, and it made me never want to PvP ever. Because I looked at Trill's screen, and he's one of the best PvPers of all time. And it made me never want to play. And all I saw on the entire thing was health bars and cooldowns. I couldn't even see the screen. I couldn't even see the game. Add-ons just covering the screen, because in a way, it's just like, it turns people off to the game. Like, look at this.
Oh, no.
Okay, this is Trill. Okay, this is Trill's screen in Arena. Let me minimize this for you guys. I found it. This made me never want to play right here. I can't even see the characters, guys. This is one of the best World of Warcraft PvPers of all time. And this is what his screen looks like. This is how much gameplay you can see. This is his character. And it's smashed in between all of these add-ons and everything. Are add-ons just ruining the game? I promise you guys, if Trill's screen was blacked out and all you could see were the add-ons, he could probably still play the game. I'm not even capping. This UI pretty clean? Oh, hell yeah. This is clean, bro. I feel like the add-ons don't leave enough room for error anymore. They close the skill gap too much on the top end. A really, really good PvPer that could, like, count to 20 seconds in his head and know that he's not on DR anymore. And he also sees across the map that it looks like the mage is casting sheep, or he's calling it, and he's able to, like, shadow step kick and then call a go on another target. Like, that type of gameplay would be insanely dope if we could watch PvPers without add-ons. I think it would be amazing. Like, the skill gap would just widen so much with no add-ons, I feel like. And they wouldn't have to make mythic raids so hard if there were no add-ons. People used in-game stopwatch for DR? You mean like Reckful? I think so. I think that's what I'm referring to. Reckful was so good because the skill gap for players was much larger because there wasn't add-ons telling you every single thing that's going on all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be able to know that this guy has kidney shot on C. You shouldn't be able to see these DRs. You should have to time this in their head. You shouldn't know that this guy has trinket. You know, you shouldn't know every cooldown that your teammate has up. You shouldn't know that Ice Block has 3-minute cooldown on it. You shouldn't know any of this information. You shouldn't know that this guy's casting a flash heal. If you didn't know any of this information and you had to look at the game to see it, that would be a better game, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it be a better game if you had to look at the game to play it? You don't have to look at the game anymore. You can just look at all the information. It's like looking at the Matrix, guys. Imagine someone in the Matrix and they're just looking at the numbers and they're going, wow, that's beautiful. They're just looking at the ones and zeros going across the screen and they're like, oh my God, this is a beautiful game. We're drifting too far away from, like, the actual game with this type of meta. The skill gap of just, like, knowing when to do a go and, like, learning this timing and, like, yes, imagine having all of this in your brain without it just being right here in front of you so you don't have to have it in your brain. Like, that would raise the skill gap of the WoW players for raiding, for PvP, and it would allow the best players in the world to, like, even excel more because, like, they would just know the timers in their head. I think it is cheating in a way. I'm kind of slowly drifting towards this no add-ons allowed thing. In the past, Blizz tournaments were without add-ons. I love that. I think that that's amazing. I'm kind of with Asmon's take on that. If there were no add-ons, the game wouldn't have to be so hard because we're playing with cheat codes. And Blizzard has to design a game to be difficult enough while you're cheating. They have to make it harder and harder because we're all cheating. It makes it less playable for everybody else because it's too hard for an average player. Add-ons are bad for the game because it makes less people play it. Essentially, that's what it is. I think they're bad for developers because they're designing the game for Race to World First. Is Race to World First part of the problem? Do you guys think the game is being designed for Liquid and Echo? In a way, I do think Race to World First is not the sole problem or anything like that, but I don't think it's good for the overall amount of subs in World of Warcraft and the overall player base to design the raid around Liquid and Echo. It's the biggest viewer count that WoW gets is during the Race to World First. It's not good. It's not good for the overall, I think, health of the MMO. My dream is that they come out with World of Warcraft 2 with no add-ons and no flying mounts. And I'm really on the fence about Transmog. Transmog is fun in some ways, but it takes away from people that earn their items and want to like show off their Thunder Fury. I don't think Transmog belongs in the game. I think if you want to wear Transmog, then you can have those items equipped. You can still go farm your Transmog, but the items you have equipped should look like you have them equipped. That's all. And if you want to look a certain way, you should have to go farm those pieces yourself, and then you could equip it. That's what I think. Do you guys think that would be a good idea? WoW 2, no Transmog, no flying mounts, and no add-ons. Would you play that is the question. And if you say no, can you please tell me why you wouldn't play that game? I want quality of life add-ons. Well, in WoW 2, you wouldn't need quality of life add-ons because they would already be in the game. It would already be part of the UI. Just make Cataclysm happen again and let's nuke the whole game. I would actually love if they got rid of add-ons in Classic as well. I would love if they got rid of add-ons in Classic, man. And SOD is an experimental test. They could test it. Is a DPS meter bad for MMOs? I know Final Fantasy doesn't have them. It's actually against TOS in Final Fantasy to have a DPS meter. I think it's probably most people are in favor of DPS meters. I would say it's probably like a 60-40 split. Maybe 40% of the player base doesn't like DPS meters, and the other half, the 60%, does like DPS meters. Now, the argument why people like DPS meter is because it helps you see who sucks in your raid. It helps you to see if you're not doing enough damage in order to kill the boss. You can find out who's ignoring the mechanics, who's not targeting the ad. But in a way, if you take away add-ons, do you lose the DPS meter? No DPS meter only works if the content is easy. Funsies, let me tell you one thing about that. Final Fantasy content is said to be hard or just as hard as WoW Mythic rating, and there's no DPS meter. But parsing stems from DPS meter. It's DPS meters, and then it's parsing. And so these are the two things that I'm sort of on the fence about if they help or hurt an MMO. And keep in mind, like, I love parsing. It's one of the reasons I play the game. I love doing damage. I love hard boss fights. I actually like Mythic rating. I just don't like being in a raid of idiots who have to wipe on a boss 300 times in order to kill it. So that's what I don't like about Mythic rating. Mythic rating, in my opinion, is a bit too hard. but you could close the parsing API and keep the damage meter. Okay, that's one solution. I do like DPS meters. I think I'm part of the 60%. I like competing to a certain degree. DPS meters show total damage, including damage done to ads that may not count towards a parse. Yeah, they do. So you can pad. Like you could pad a DPS meter. You could see who's not. But then you can also filter it by damage to bosses too. I like DPS meter. Don't get me wrong. The difference in Final Fantasy XIV is that it combines casual content with ultra hardcore. Casuals can use Raid Finder and play on easy modes. Sweats can play the hardcore modes. Well, I mean, WoW has that too. Here's the issue, guys. I'm going to give you an example of why I think parsing is not a problem and DPS meters are. You have one raid lockout a week. I invite you to my raid and we are wiping on a boss. I notice that your damage is holding my group back from progressing through the boss. I decide that after 15 wipes, that your damage is holding the entire group back from killing the boss. You are just very, very bad. And after 15 tries of asking you to do something and you haven't done it, I have decided to kick you out of the raid, and we've already killed the first boss in the raid. You are now locked. Parsing. If I was able to just look up your parsing, I would have never invited you to the raid in the first place, and now you wouldn't be saved. So this is why parsing could be good. And if we only had DPS meters, I wouldn't be able to look you up beforehand. I'd have to kick you during the raid versus not inviting you at all. And so I think that everybody is probably different or indifferent on one of those three things. And at the end of the day, it's like, if you got rid of add-ons, you could make the bosses easier. And then maybe you wouldn't need DPS meters and parsing if the fights were just easier, if we didn't have all this information coming at us. It's like, which is the right thing to do? I don't disagree with parsing. It's just annoying as a decent player that I can't get good groups because I don't log. I can feel you for that. I do feel you for that, Funtrain. It's tough. It's tough if you don't log and you're a good player. You're the minority, and it sucks to be left out because you don't log. If people think WCL is the only way to see parses, they're only seeing the surface of the water. The information in combat logs is wildly valuable learning tool, regardless of parsing. Yeah, I agree. The combat logging is... In a way, though, if we didn't have combat logs to break down every aspect of the fight, even down to you could see where someone was standing, who they were targeting, and what spell they canceled, and if they didn't interrupt a certain mob they were supposed to, like, you can literally see every single thing. And I think that parse culture has made Blizzard make the game too hard. And if we got rid of parsing and add-ons, we could drop the skill level of raiding a bit, and then more players would play the game. And gatekeeping wouldn't be such a big deal anymore. So the reason that we gatekeep is because the raids are hard and we're all cheating with add-ons. And so is it the gatekeeping that's a problem? Or is it the add-ons, the DPS meters, and the combat logs? It's one of those, right? And so it's just this culture that we've created with DPS in general of why this is how we got here. Too many add-ons, too much information. And now we've created a gatekeeping culture because the game is too hard now. It's valid to suggest that the prevalence of information contributes to gatekeeping. WoW has always been a knowledge game, and a game knowledge is what contributes most to skill. Yeah, exactly. So take away the information that's giving people all this knowledge. The game was more fun when I didn't know every single thing to do all the time. I kind of hate MMO boss mechanics where if one or two people mess up even once, you have to wipe and start over. Same. But everybody wants to do the Mythic Raid because the Mythic Raid is where you get the best gear. I like the process of, like, you learn the normal raid, you get some good gear, you learn the heroic raid, you get better gear, and then you go into mythic because you need the heroic gear to clear the mythic raid. And then you start working on Mythic. But I think that Mythic is too hard because we have add-ons. It's too hard because we have WoW logs. And we have raid simulators. We literally have programs, raid bots, to calculate even the smallest degree of gear to help us pump 500 more damage in a fight where we're doing 280 million damage or something crazy. You know what I mean? Like, we have these supercomputers that are rendering out calculations for us to figure out if we need mastery or versatility on our gems. I think it's too much, guys. I think World of Warcraft has dove off the deep end by giving the players too much information, and the barrier to entry is just too high for new players. If you take away all the information, the add-ons, the DPS meters, the combat logs, you can drop the difficulty of the raids, and more people will play the game. That's what I think. I think Asmon is saying the same thing.
That becomes immediately true. Anything that artificially increases your awareness beyond what a normal player would have access to is cheating. Like, that's just how it is. But this isn't any other game. Yeah, and that's the problem. And so I think that they need to disable every single add-on completely and redo the base UI and make it better. So, and also in doing that, they would need to make raids easier. And they would need to make them easier to understand.
Yes.
But because you're also removing add-ons, you are making raids harder.
Yes, exactly. Asmon is saying the same thing. You take away all the information, and now the raids are harder. People are actually playing the game instead of staring at the details meter. They're trying to actively learn the game and see and click on things and read spells, and like you're not having the game like played for you.
And you're making them easier, so the same equilibrium point would be, you know, kind of relative, right?
Right.
That's like kind of my mindset here. Does that make sense? And so whenever I talk about this stuff, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills sometimes, but then I realize that most of the people that are fighting against me have invested.
I still agree with Asmon's take here that somewhere along the lines, we lost a feeling of the MMO and World of Warcraft because of the barrier to entry of the game is too high for new players. So we're not getting new players because they see a screen that looks like this and they don't want to play because they don't know what's going on. It's just a bunch of information being thrown at you. We're not playing WoW anymore. It's too much. The healing meters, the DPS meters, the Gladius frames, the DR cooldowns, the trinket cooldowns, your party members' cooldowns, your party members' health, your target, your health, your target's health, your target of target's health, target of target's target health. Like, what is even this? You have weak auras going across your screen. You have your what are these? Like your lust cooldowns, focus, your focus kick. You have Omnibar showing you everyone's CDs when your CDs are coming back up. How much time is left in the map? Like, there's just like too much, right, guys? This is too much info. I think it's just like, it's just too much, right? At some point, it's like, how do we get rid of all this and just play the game? And the answer is just take all of it away. Yep. But you can't take it away now because we've been playing it. We've been playing with it for too long. So the only solution is to release a new version of the game where there's no add-ons. And you just improve your UI so that the basic information that most players use are just already in the game and you can enable it or disable it. The heroic raid will be just fine, guys. If we could go in and do it with no DPS meters, no add-ons, no weak auras, we got to go in and learn to fight ourselves. And that's hard. That's more fun than just like more health, more mechanics, and then you have to make more weak auras to try and figure it all out. Like, that's World of Warcraft, is like, oh, more damage, more mechanics, which means we're going to need more weak auras and more add-ons to counter it. You know what I mean? Like, that's WoW now. It's just another weak aura. WoW is just, what's the next weak aura? That's boring. Let's go back to actually looking at the game and playing it.